morning, everyone, and welcome to the Frontenac County Council meeting for Wednesday, October the 15th, 2025. We begin this meeting by moving into a closed session.
Moved by Councillor Vandewaal, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Resolved that council resolve itself into committee of the whole closed session as authorized under section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider adoption of closed minutes of meeting held September 17th, 2025, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board as it relates to the operation of the Howe Island Ferry.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. We're now moving into closed. Welcome back, everyone. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the county is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Deputy Warden Saunders. Resolved that council rise from Committee of the Whole closed session without reporting.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. We have no addenda. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Councillor Greenwood Spears. Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held September 17th, 2025 be adopted.
Comments? In favor? Carried. We have no delegations or presentations. We do have a proclamation.
So through you, your worship, I'll just read the resolve clause. That's moved by Councillor Vandewaal, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac hereby proclaims November 19th, 2025 as GIS Day in Frontenac County.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Move into the Committee of the Whole.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, that council adjourn and meet as Committee of the Whole Council with the Deputy Warden in the chair.
Any comments? In favor? Carried.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, distinguished guests and council. Look forward to a productive discussion today. So our first briefing is with Dr. Peter Ogazla, Medical Officer of Health, KFLNA Public Health, and he will present two County Council highlights of the public health programs and services, along with an overview of the draft 2026 budget. Dr. Ogazla, welcome.
Good morning. I'm here today to give you a preview of what's to come for our 2026 budget for our merged agency, Southeast Public Health. And I'll just wait for the first slide to come in because it does show our new branding. So Southeast Public Health, not so newly merged, January 1st, 2025, but recently received our branding of Southeast Public Health. The presentation today is about providing you with some predictions, what to expect in terms of contributions for Frontenac County. Next. As you all know, the three legacy agencies, organizations, Leeds Grenville Lanark District Public Health, KFLA Public Health, and Hastings Prince Edward Public Health merged on January 1st, 2025 to create what was then called by legislation Southeast Health Unit. So that's the legal name of the agency. Any of the ministry contracts will come with that legal name. But part of the merger process was to select a operating name, the new brand, and that was rebranded as Southeast Public Health, and that happened on September 29th. We are merging through our IT systems and we'll be combining the teams through the new organizational structure that will allow us to work together as one cohesive agency. And this agency is to serve over 550,000 people in the Southeast region. So we're a much larger agency, and with that comes representations from the communities served and a larger Board of Health, which is now 12 municipal and 6 provincial appointees. The next slide shows the coverage map, the extent of the area that we serve. So the new agency has 490 staff and 23 volunteers. It covers a region that's nearly 20,000 square kilometers and have geographical coverage that includes a number of municipalities listed on the slide, coming from the east, city of Brockville, to Quinte West in the western part, and of course in the center of this new entity is the Frontenac County, as marked on the slide there. With that larger organization and combining of the 3 legacy organizations, a greater number of staff and a greater number of population served, this new entity, this new health unit organization has moved from the previous budgets of nearly 20 million, 19.8 in 2024, which was the solo agency budget of KFLA Public Health, to this new number, which is now nearly $48 million for 2026. And it's important to note that although this is a much larger budget, the contributions, according to the legislation, and as well as according to the decisions by the board, are based on population. So they are proportional to the size of population served. So some of the planning assumptions that I wanted to share with you for 2026, and I think that I'll start with the first caveat that the budget is currently under development. But the purpose of me presenting today is to give you the predictions to what to expect in terms of the Frontenac County contributions. We do expect to increase in the provincial grant, the same increase as in prior years of 1%. And what's most important from your perspective here, there's no anticipated increase for Frontenac County from the 2025 levels. And this is a rather busy slide, but this is something that we go into more in depth with staff here at the Frontenac County, because this table shows the harmonized impact for Frontenac County, and this is still subject to Board of Health discussions about the harmonization. But harmonization in principle is what I mentioned earlier, is that the new organization intends to have contributions from municipalities proportional to the number of population served. And under this harmonized scenario, because there are different levels of contribution in the legacy organizations, under this harmonized scenario for 2025, Frontenac County would have over-contributed, again, as a proportion of the overall population. And there will be an individualized approach to municipalities to address these over-contribution, and these over-contributions impact Frontenac County, Lennox and Addington, as well as City of Kingston. So these will be all individualized discussions. And what we propose for that is that the over-contribution for this year will be then used to offset the increase levy increases in subsequent years as the municipalities move to the harmonized scenario. So this is important to really unpack a little bit more to explain why we have a situation where one municipal or group of municipalities over contributed and you're still increasing the levies in subsequent years. That's because as a new merged organization, we move down the level, we go back to that common average split at which Frontenac County would have over contributed. And from that split, all the municipalities are then coming up together. So even though there's going to be an increase, that increase is still going to be below the level that this municipality in particular would have paid last year. So that's, I hope that will make it a little bit more clear when we have these detailed discussions with the finance and staff, but we'll slowly then build up the level of contributions to nearly the level that was pre-merger. But again, all the municipalities will go together, and the contribution will be again proportional to the population served. So that's really the key message from this presentation, is that with the next year budget, we are looking at contribution that will not exceed what was paid last year. There might be even some decrease, and again, that's more discussion to come as we are building the budget and working with the board on that. So with that, I understand that there's a lot of unknowns, but I hope that I convey the most important message for the group today. And with that, I'll turn for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Oglaza. So do we have any comments or questions for Dr. Oglaza? Councillor Van der Wal.
Because the new organization is so large, in your opinion, is this organization going to be more cost effective and still be responsive to its residents' needs?
Thank you for this question, comment. I think that's a really important point to raise. Part of the purpose of the merger was to provide a stronger, more resilient organization. So if there are emergencies or situations that require surge capacity, that is now drawing from a much larger pool of resources from the combined region, as opposed to just from one organization, one health unit. So yes, in that sense, there will be the organization will be stronger. In terms of efficiency, we've already realized a number of efficiencies, especially on the side of corporate services, where there's some through natural attrition and movement. We've accomplished scaling down of the number of FTEs, even within the corporate services. And again, that's with understanding that three organizations coming together, there's going to be some reductions in the amount of support that's needed on that end, although that's still always done with the balance of do we have enough capacity to respond to surges? Do we have enough backup to maintain the function of organization? So on both of these accounts, yes, we are achieving some efficiencies there. We are achieving the stronger organization, and the intent behind the merger was to maintain that local connection. So that connection and contact that we had with our municipal partners, for example, will continue. That same goes for municipal staff, for any of the municipal services that we interact on day-to-day basis. That approach is intended to continue, and that was always behind that was the underlying principle behind the merger.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Dr. Oglaza, I do have a bit of a housekeeping item for you. I introduced you as the Medical Officer of Health for KFLNA. Has that title changed now in this new role, or is that you still maintain that?
So that title has changed. It's the name of the new organization. With the merger, it's the Southeast Public Health.
We'll correct that next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Our next presentation is with Jane Hartley, the Director, Housing and Social Services, City of Kingston, and Jane will provide County Council with a presentation of the draft social services and housing budget. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I'll just wait for my slide deck, and maybe in the interim, I'll introduce myself. I'm Jane Hartley, Director of Housing and Social Services with the City of Kingston. I've been with the city since June of last year, so still feel somewhat new, but wonderful to come up here. Funny, my family has, my brother and sister-in-law used to own a place on Unity, the old stone church that I'm sure many, so I took a drive through. It's beautiful up here this time of year. Thank you for the opportunity to present on kind of what social assistance, housing, childcare, and early years services, as well as some comments on our draft 2026 budget to you. It's a great, love to come up here and to see. I do visit up to Sharbot Lake quite often as we provide service up there. So if I can just move to the next slide. Oh, next slide, please, possible. Okay, and I couldn't do this alone. I need to acknowledge my team members that are not here, but for your information, myself as director, Mitchell Grange, who some of you likely have met through the years. He's policy manager. He's really with our kind of social housing rent supplement, manages that portfolio. Heather Mitchell as well, the manager of childcare and early on services. And I do have two new managers that have joined with the city. Kelly Black, she is our manager of affordable housing. And I've just recently announced she will be joining us on the 27th of October. Julie Lambert, formerly of Addiction Mental Health Support Services, she'll be joining as our manager of homelessness services. If county recalls that we did through budget, there was one position, housing and homelessness manager, and that was divided to just knowing the demands and the complexity of homelessness and affordable housing, that the two positions have been created. Okay. And next slide. What I'm hoping to speak today is just very briefly about kind of service manager roles, that we do. We work with provincial entities and a number of them. Talk about some of our social assistance, housing and homelessness, and childcare and early years programming here in the county. Just speak briefly on the county recovery, and looking at approach for 2027. Speak about our 2026 draft budget, and of course, answer any questions that you may have. Really, the first is just to speak to, as you're well aware, as the city is we're responsible for a variety of provincially prescribed programs that are available to residents of the city in Kingston and the County of Frontenac. We are the service manager for both. And the services are delivered by staff in the Housing and Social Services Department across all of the portfolios. And programming includes social assistance. We work with MCCSS provincially on that, housing and homelessness with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and childcare and early on, which is with the Ministry of Education. So there's a lot of kind of provincial funding that comes through, but also a significant amount of city funding as well. In terms of housing and the services that are offered in the county, it's really social housing. Mitchell is responsible. There's currently 51 units. With Lowborough, there's 28 rent geared to income units, and North Frontenac Nonprofit Housing Corporation, there's 18 RGI units, as well as we have 3 rent supplement units and 2 portable housing benefits. So we have two households here that are taking advantage of that portable housing benefits. As you will note, at the end, there's an asterisk about the numbers reduced by 28 units due to the fire at McMullen Manor. I was fortunate just yesterday, and I think some may have to hear from Mary Lynn that they have reached somewhat. They're working towards settlement so that the insurance and the rebuild will be moving forward. So that's exciting news. I think she just sent me an email just before I sat down here to say I think she's coming November 4th and talking about that further. So that's very exciting, and cities looking forward to working to assist with that project as we, as whatever needed as it moves forward. Thank you. Capital investment, affordable housing, that's really that's the opportunity for the city through provincial funding to, look at affordability opportunities in the county as well as the city. The last one was in 2009, where the city identified provincial funds that could be used for, I think it was 661,000 to help build 5 homes for seniors as part of the Central Frontenac Housing Corporation on Clement Road. Really excited to say that with council direction, we were able to support with the Canada-Ontario Housing Priority Initiative and the Ontario Priority Housing Initiative funding of 1.4 million to support the project that is in South Frontenac in Verona, and that is a 90 to 110 project. We're able to, with that funding, look at affordability opportunities for 56 units, so they will be affordable, and they will be offered at 60 to some at 60 and some at 70% of the average market rent, and they will be a mix of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. The construction is expected to start in 2026, and with some, there's phases. So some will come on in 2026 and some will come on in 2027. So really excited to see that move forward as well. The home ownership program that's been in existence for a while, it's really to offer first-time home buyers and renters that the opportunity to purchase a home, and it provides a down payment assistance through a forgivable loan. The forgivable loan is for 20 years, and it's up to 20% equal of the purchase price of the home. So the program Impact, it's been in place since 2008, so for quite a while. We have had 112 supported, and of those 17 were up here in the county. Kingston Frontenac Renovates program, that's always a very highly subscribed program. It's an opportunity to support households with both critical repairs, accessibility upgrades. It is as well a forgivable loan. It's up to 15,000, and that forgivable period is 10 years. The requirement is really that the household, the person continues residing there. And program Impact, there's been 338 households since 2012, and of that, 215 projects were here in Frontenac County. Homelessness services. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the programming that's here, and through kind of our budget directions, what we were looking at for 2025 and would be looking at similar approach in 2027. Of those, the county, really there's rural prevention and diversion, and that's really the opportunity for workers to support individuals, and it's being offered through the Salvation Army, all of the programs, Rural Housing First, as well as the Homelessness Prevention Fund, to support individuals that are at risk or homeless. And that's an opportunity to help them, connecting them with financial resources, potential vacancies. Really the idea of prevention diversion is diversion at all costs. If possible, it's better to keep somebody housed than to have them. It's better financially, and it's better for the household from the trauma of being displaced and facing eviction. So whenever possible, it's really about trying to support people where they're living, if it is affordable. If it's not, then it's that opportunity to support them to how best what is available and how we can help. Rapid Housing First, that's as well, that wraparound supports, case manager to help people that are looking for housing, that are in need of housing. So it's really working with them to try to connect them with community resources and addressing kind of the complex needs, some of the other things they may be experiencing. Housing is important, but also as are the supports that are needed to help them move successfully through the continuum, be it addiction, mental health support. So that's worker would be supporting them with resources and connecting them in the community. The Homelessness Prevention Fund, it's really the financial resources that an individual may need to either stay successfully housed, if there's, dealing with arrears due to utilities, arrears for their rent, but also if they're looking for housing and they need first and last month's rent, that's where we can support a household with that, as long as kind of the caveat is that it is affordable and that they would be able to manage that moving forward. Okay. And Ontario Works. So just to give an overview of the services and kind of some of the numbers for what's happening up here in the county across the three portfolios. Ontario Works, as of August, there was a caseload of an average of 273 so far. That's an 8.3 increase from 2024. And the satellite office is located in Sharbot Lake, where it's co-located with some other services, which is great. The ODSP office, I believe, is still there. So that's a great opportunity when I was up there just to see that coordination of services. Childcare and early on, subsidies paid to family and services providers, that reduces the cost of childcare. As of August 2025, there is 14 families have been served and 19 children have been served at a cost of $66,415 approximately. So that's as of August. So we're kind of extrapolating through the rest of the year, gives you an idea. Operating funding is provided to Rural Frontenac Community Services for childcare at Longborough as well as Elginburg for before and after school care. And the early on, always a popular and highly prescribed program, is available for children 0 to 6. And as you can see from the statistics that it's available in Sydenham, Verona, and Sharbot Lake. And our numbers today, we've had It's 2,700 visits to the site, both families, parents and children. Right. Looking ahead, I tried to kind of give what we are, and just caveat, of course, this is, the budget is draft and is subject to change. So just taking that into account as well. Some, we have not yet received our funding allocations or notice, so I'll speak to that as well. I just had put up for 2025, so you can see kind of what the budget was like in 2025, and then it kind of speaks to what the 2026 anticipated budget is. And I just want to make sure. So we had for Ontario Works, you see it's about a 3.67% increase. Childcare in early years, we have yet to receive our transfer payment agreement, so we don't know what our funding is yet for 2026. Unfortunately, generally, we don't receive that until later in the year, which is challenging in terms of planning, but we do have for now what we received for 2025. So we don't anticipate it being different. The only difference maybe is that with the rollout of CWELC, that this year was like our full first year. So we're just not sure what that will look like. It's a cost-based funding now, as opposed to claims-based. So it is a difference in terms of how we're funding the program. So that'll be something that we're keeping an eye out as well for. Housing and homelessness, there's a 10.2% increase in funding there. And I can speak to some of those drivers. And I think, yeah, it speaks to the transfer payment agreement at the end there. And I'll just speak briefly through each area. OW, it's really around administration and the benefits. Benefits are included in the administration as well. And that our budget there is 987,000, and that's an increase of the 3.87. I just want to make sure I have that. And yeah, that's 937,428 is our for Ontario Works. And for childcare and early years, that again, it's restating what our budget was for 2025 until we have further details on the 2026 budget. And then housing and homelessness kind of wraps it up there. Administration, there's, as you'll see, kind of two lines for administration housing. That's really speaking about the social housing as well as the, and this includes the wait list, management of the wait list, the housing and the homelessness programs that you've seen that I spoke to that are delivered through the Salvation Army. It's also managing the by name list. It's also looking at affordable housing, the supports that are needed, the staff that are working. So it's a combination of all those. So our increase, we have found the increase in homelessness and use of the services has increased. It is a challenge, I know, for the 2026 budget because it has been a significant area of growth, and understanding that there's even in the county, you're seeing that more prevalent as well. So this is something that we're keeping, working with our staff, Salvation Army on, as well as our staff to see how best we can support moving forward on that as well. And the other thing, just to speak kind of generally in terms of the recovery for 2026, it will be status quo. It's based on the inflationary increase and the budget direction of 2.5% or 2.4, I believe. So that will be the impact. For 2027, finance and the city will be working with the county and talking with some meetings coming up. I'm going to talk about approach going forward, looking at alignment with the current agreement and having those discussions on kind of right sizing and determining if any changes, what that might look like. So that'll be, excuse me, kind of a consulting with the county. Sorry. Right. Thank you. And if there's any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you. And we'll go around the table and ask for questions.
Sure.
Councilor Fowler.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. It's very informative. I got a question in the area of homelessness and especially in sparsely populated areas. What happens when we come across somebody? Is there any emergency housing for these people where we can direct them? And also, is there any affordable rentals available for these people?
Mm-hmm. In terms of homelessness, Unfortunately, the shelters are located in the city, kind of near to where the services are. It has come up and often does, if there is an individual that is in need of shelter, then we are able to, through our workers with the Salvation Army, to transport people down. And that has happened through a taxi to support them coming down. Once they come inside to the shelter, that's when they're connected with the resources and the services that will help them with the Housing First worker, what their needs, challenges are. So kind of help them move towards whether it be transitional housing, supportive, or independent rental. Excuse me. And in terms of the rental accommodation, agree, it's very challenging in terms of finding affordable rental housing. That is something that when I'm looking at kind of goal for my team is trying to see opportunities for potential like portable housing benefits, Canada Ontario housing benefit. We did receive funding. We just received funding to support up to 45 households. So that is something that we will be looking at. Both there are some priority target populations like veterans. There are already survivors of domestic violence, seniors, risk of homelessness. So it's really great. It's expanded now to so that we can look at supporting a number of individuals. We're excited as well by the Verona build coming on board starting in 2026. So that would be creating 60 or 70% affordable of the AMR, which is affordable, lower in terms of affordability. So it's really about our Housing First workers working with an individual to try to locate or see where there may be affordable rental. It's a challenge across the city and the county for sure.
Just quickly, would we be contacting you if
Mhm.
we come across anything? like
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. And what I can do is I brought some of my business cards as well. We do have kind of a homelessness email and it's monitored ongoing because obviously things come up through the day. So you can definitely have, staff, people, anybody to contact that way. There is also, you know what, and I can drop them off. Apologies, I should have brought some. There's who to call. It's something new that we've created. So it's really for yourselves, but also members of the community when they're finding something. What do I do if I see a needle? If I see somebody that's looks like there's a challenge or issue, where do I go? Who do I call? So I will arrange to drop those up. It's another reason to come up this way.
So Councillor Leonard, then Councillor Vanderwall, and then Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Well, thank you for your presentation. You've got a lot of good news in there, but that McMullen Manor, I think, is one of the better ones. That's
Yeah.
been a long struggle. One of the most questions that's been asked to me is when are they gonna do it? I just keep call the city.
I was very happy when I received the email yesterday and then had the email from Mary Lynn. So yeah, so they're moving forward on that very quickly. And I know they've been working with HSC to try to resolve that, the insurance claims. So it's a good news story.
Thank you.
Councillor Vanderwall?
Well, I guess my first question is to that line, is it going to be the same number of units?
My understanding is yes.
Okay. Secondly, the Maltby Center, does that fall under the city of Kingston also funding? And I'm not sure of my ignorance what they do, but we do have a Maltby Center and I think it's some sort of a family social program.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell, but I'm
Okay,
wondering, is
so-
it early on? Is it, but I can definitely take that back. When I'm thinking of all the funding agencies and organizations and sites, that is not drawing, that's not
Because it
coming up.
is, we do have a building in South Frontenac and it's run by the Maltby Center and I'm not sure what it does or how it gets its funding, but I assume it's obviously provincial funding or something, but
I
I
can
didn't
take
know if
that
it
back.
fell under your umbrella or not.
Yeah, I can take it back though, and if it's not, I'm sure I can find out and provide that information.
And when you said you were going to provide contacts, would that be to municipal offices? That way they have it and then we could go from there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Greenwood Spears?
what came to my mind is that sometimes there's potential of houses that haven't been lived in for a period of time for whatever reasons, usually related to someone's aged out of it and the family's just held on to it. Is there ever an opportunity in that if they could donate the house to the organizations? I'm thinking specifically in rural settings in particular, in the city, and that they can sell very easily and that, but in this country times, not always the case. Is there an opportunity that the family could make a donation in that regard? Perhaps get a tax receipt out of it, I don't know. But basically get the house back onto the market and owned by an organization like yourself and that. Because I think of at least one home right now that has been left unused and that
Mhm.
because the person has passed away. And the family look at it and think, well, we could burn it down and just get rid of, any obligation for keeping the house going that, because they aren't living there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody like that might be open to severing off an acre from the lot and then your organization taking up. I just wondered if that's a possibility that could be looked at.
Mm-hmm. Definitely something I can take back, because when you're thinking of like with the Kochi OFI, which is the funding, there is a part, it's also renovation. So it's purchasing and, working with developers around buying affordability, but it's also rehab, renovations, acquisitions. So there is the opportunity for that to happen. I think what I'd like to do is take, because it's, my mind is going to a few things, because it's a donation to an organization, to an agency, to a support service, like what that would look like, how that would, obviously, there's always that due diligence piece is sometimes a donation, it can look, but then once you start looking at the building, and it's ongoing maintenance, the operating, so definitely something I'll take back. It might not just be my team, but also kind of talking with planning as well as realty, what that looks like if it's happened before. It sounds very interesting, and definitely an opportunity to bring units or congregate live back on stream. So I'll take that back and see what I can find out. Might not be right away, but I'll look into that to see.
Warden Licky?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, for being here today. This is so important. So I represent North Frontenac and previous employee of HSC, as you referred to. My question is, sometimes we run into people who are homeless. We don't have tent cities. We don't have them sleeping in the streets, but we do have them, especially in the winter,
Mhm.
sleeping in tents in our North Frontenac parklands. We do understand that some of them are sleeping in cars and whatever. If we come to a point and we were aware of some sort of accommodation, and I'm talking on a temporary basis, in the local community, is there some sort of subsidy? Like they've opened up a motel in a small town, whether or not the motel flies or not, I don't know. They renovated an old building. Maybe a couple units in there for a period of time. Would there be some sort of subsidy from Kingston or from your organization rather than send them all the way to the big city?
That would need to come back, obviously, if there's council direction to support that, if there's funding available, by all means. Ideally, I think the first step is to, and I agree, ideally you want to keep somebody in the community where they are, if possible. And maybe there is some opportunities through portable housing benefit. In terms of funding, could be through a rent supplement agreement as well. So there could be some opportunities. I'd probably just need to know more details on what that would look like. The challenge with hotels, I know that the city has experienced, well, even before I was here, but also where I come, I've been 15 years in, is it's very challenging to assist, like when an individual moves into a hotel, to connect with service, like there's some challenges there to help move them along with the wraparound supports needed. But definitely if there's details that you can provide and send to me, I can take a look to see. I do know in the past the city was utilizing hotels. They're not now. It is something they've moved away from. But definitely it's a different, as you say, up in rural in the north. So what could be some opportunities here?
Okay, I was just thinking on a temporary basis,
Yeah,
just to get them by for a month or two until they could get included into the larger municipality, into the larger system.
yeah,
But anyway, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. as
Yeah,
long as it's an option, and it doesn't, I just brought the hotel up as an example. There are a few other places. We did look at this, and we do subsidize senior care to our seniors through Rural Frontenac Community Services. But creating homes is like just financially not something in North Frontenac is financially set to actually do.
Yeah.
That.
no, definitely. I have that. I'll take that away and see what some potential options might be. And you're right, it's usually during the colder weather. Those times where it's staying in a tent is not manageable.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to ask if the warden has to do some additional information or provide some additional information to move forward on that one. I see you making notes. Is there anything we need to do?
Well, if you can just provide details, that would be helpful.
I have your email. I took that down.
Perfect. And I will leave my business cards here as well, so you have that.
Counselor Vanderwall.
I guess a couple of years ago, homelessness was looking at a property in South Frontenac, and I think the city was involved. And I'm glad that the decision came. Of course, everybody's always glad if it's not in their community. I understand that. It's always difficult. However, the property they were looking at had absolutely zero transportation or amenities, and so I'll say, changed their mind or went in a different direction. And until I think we get some sort of a transportation service, it's pretty hard for these people to be outside of us, of the city system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing I would try to make sure is with those individuals, and that's where our kind of the staff, the Salvation Army that would be supporting eviction prevention, housing first, is to have the person on like the by name list or on the wait list, because that's really as we're moving forward, and there's a number of projects, and I understand they're not up in the north, but there's a number of projects that we're moving forward on down in the city, which is like Queen Mary Road, shared care. It's supportive housing, 35 units, 55 plus. The new supportive housing properties that acquisitions that will be coming on stream very quickly in 2026, looking at 7 bedrooms up to 4 to 5 sites. Again, supportive housing. So those are, and what we're trying to look at is those individuals that are currently homeless in shelters to support them. But in order to support them, a lot of times we need to see, and something that I've found since I've heard, is that flow through. So you need to be able to see people that are currently in the shelters that are ready, move them into transitional housing where it's, up to 18 months, gives them time to life skills, identification, budgeting, dealing with addictions, mental, kind of those things to stabilize, and then potentially moving on to independent housing or supportive if independent's too far off. But you need that kind of movement through, and then we can also then move individuals that are potentially homeless into transitional housing as well. Because there's one thing that we're learning is there's people in our shelters that they're working full time. They just can't afford the rent. So that's a reality. And if we can start to see that flow through, which we're seeing with a transitional housing priority, like there's things that we're putting in place. But people being on the list, because that's generally where we look to prioritize and draw people from, that would be ideal. And if there's any assistance need, like that's where the staff can help understand how to navigate and help people come on that list.
Counselor Greenwood-Spears.
Okay, just to Councillor Vanderwall's point in that regarding transportation, one of our councillors here actually is involved with rural transportation. I'm just wondering if we can put that aside in that, because when you're dealing with the rural areas, you're never going to have a bus transit. And we aren't expecting people that are homeless to have a vehicle and that, but there is transportation that is available in rural settings. We are funded for that. And so it shouldn't be the huge roadblock that it can be. The other amenities and that, for example, when you're talking regarding the hotels, and that I wonder whether or not they actually have kitchen services, kitchenettes in the hotels, because that's a huge piece, and that it's one thing to put somebody out of the cold. It's another thing if they can make a meal
Mhm.
and that. So anyways,
Yeah.
the problem with transportation rural has been partially solved, I would say.
Great, thank you.
Well, Jane, I think we've exhausted our questions.
Great.
I want to thank you for your presentation, and I'd just like to know, I think you have a very high profile portfolio, so good luck.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure to be here. And I'll leave my business cards and please feel free to reach out. And I will get some of the information that I had talked about, the who to call and any others that I can leave here for you to access.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is Ms. Laura Carter, CEO and Chief Librarian for the Kingston and Frontenac Public Library. Laura will present highlights of the library programs and services, along with an overview of the always interesting library draft 2026 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that mean you read it when I sent it yesterday?
No comment.
So thank you very much for having me. My name is Laura Carter. I'm Chief Librarian and CEO of the Kingston Frontenac Public Library. I've been at the library for 19 years, actually, this year, and I've been Chief Librarian since December of 2019. Do I advance? Okay. We, of course, operate across Kingston and Frontenac County from 16 locations, 5 in the city and 11 in the county. We also have 2 library kiosks or vending machine in the city of Kingston at the Kingston East Community Center and Kingston Secondary School. All of our collections, all of our services, all of our resources are available to all library card holders. And we also have interlibrary loan where we can borrow from other libraries in the province. So I thought I would take a little time this morning to talk about some of the highlights of services and resources that you might not be as familiar with. I think people think library and they think books, they think story times, and we have something to meet pretty much every need. So Wi-Fi hotspots are right front and center there. We were successful in getting a grant from the Community Foundation for Kingston and area a few years ago to pilot this. So with your library card, you can borrow a week worth of an unlimited hotspot with Rogers. So the coverage is quite good in most areas with, you know, apologies to North Frontenac and your geography up there. It's getting better. And most of our collections float, which means if you return it in Arden, then it's going to stay there until it gets called to Cloyne. The wireless hotspots don't, because we didn't want them to all get sucked down to the city. So we have 23 hotspots right now available across the county branches, 5 in the city, and they are assigned to particular branches. And we generally ask people that they try and return it to the same branch that they borrowed it from. We have prioritized Central Frontenac and North Frontenac in where we locate those. We have them available at every branch, but we know the need is greater in terms of availability and affordability of internet for those branches. We have reminiscing kits, which we were successful in a grant with the Alzheimer's Society and the United Way. So they're totes of activities, books, resources for caregivers to help connect with people that might be living with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, provide some resources, or they can be borrowed by people. They have puzzles, they have simple books and games. And so that's a really interesting resource that is perhaps not as well known. Ontario Parks passes, but also Cataraqui Creek Conservation passes, Gould Lake passes, National Gallery, Royal Ontario Museum, other local museums and galleries, all free with your library card. Radon detectors are about to go out for the season again, and that was a partnership with the health unit. They provided the units to us so people can easily test their homes for radon. In addition to our physical collections, we have a growing collection of digital resources. Magazines are available through Libby, which is the library's main ebook and audiobook provider. We have language learning resources through Mango. Through Press Reader, you can read the Kingston Whig Standard, the Globe and Mail, newspapers and magazines from around the world, as well as the New York Times. We've pooled our ebook resources now, so we're sharing with the Burlington, Hamilton, Milton, Mississauga, Ottawa, and London Public Libraries, so that expands the reach exponentially of those resources which are in high demand. Ancestry provides census, family history, vital statistics to help people research their genealogy. And then Canopy is movie and TV screening, streaming. Hoopla is ebooks, audiobooks, comics, and music. So these are all available 24/7 across our service area. Again, you know, where we might be limited in our physical locations, this really expands the reach of the library. These are 2024 statistics because it's more impressive if I use the bigger numbers than using year-to-date of 2025. So out of the county branches, we had 79,556 items borrowed last year. That doesn't account for county residents' use of the city branches, which particularly when the Isabel Turner branch is open, we know we have a high proportion of county residents using those branches. And then as well with Pittsburgh and the other sort of ones that are a little bit more on the edge of the city. But this is just the physical borrowing from the county branches. And if you use the average cost of $25 an item, which is where everything we've ordered sort of rounds out to, that's $1.98 million in sort of book borrowing alone, what the value is to just from county borrowing. We welcomed almost 60,000 visitors to those 11 branches, and they asked our staff a little over 13,000 questions last year. System-wide, there are some things we don't track branch by branch, so some of our digital checkouts, website visits, some of those resources that I mentioned before. So when you add up all of those things, then I get to an impressive 1.3 some million resource uses for the library. And then that's system-wide, almost 100,000 questions that were asked of our staff last year. So what we've been up to recently, we're working on a major renovation of the Isabel Turner branch that is expected to reopen in spring of 2026. We got some new furniture in Arden that completed the refresh of that branch, and new furniture is being delivered for the Parham branch. We did some consultations with the users to say, you know, what would you like? Unfortunately, with the size of some of the county locations, it's like you can have a chair and table or this, you know, it's not both. So we're adding 2 lounge chairs and a coffee table. People can do puzzles, they can sit and visit. It makes it a little bit more welcoming to sit and stay. We added some fun children's carpets and early literacy toys to the Plevna and Arden branches as well this summer. And we're currently looking at something fun for Mountain Grove for early 2026. We updated our library use and conduct policy that was launched in March and updated our suspension guidelines. We relaunched interlibrary loan service after a provincial software upgrade. People can now put their requests in on their own. It's much easier. We're looking at a diversity audit of our collections to make sure we're representing the diversity of all of our populations. We're launching a new website later this month. I think using the same company that the county is going to be using, Sandbox. So happy to share our experiences there and some updates and improvements to the library catalog. And we're replacing all of our staff computers right now and then public computers later this year for Windows 11. Our marketing and communications team has been very busy this year. We redesigned our newsletters, our email notices. They really helped us get the word out about summer reading challenges. We got billboards this time, which we haven't really done in the past. There was one outside the Parham General Store. And it's Canadian Library Month right now. So I did want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible work that the library staff do. So I say the library offers this or the library that. It's really the fantastic staff that work at KFPL. And so as part of the month, we're asking people to share the impact that the library has made on their lives. And not surprisingly, staff feature very heavily in the stories that we've collected so far. So the theme is Libraries for Life, and a Plevna patron who lives alone said that the library has given me a chance to meet other people. Rhonda has made me aware of all the activities going on in town and at the library. She always makes everyone feel welcome. A Calvin Park patron said that the library has played a profound role in my life as a new immigrant and eventually a parent. As a new immigrant, it was my place to go, using computer services, accessing different resources, and making connections. As a parent, it has made me a more confident mother. The different programs run by KFPL are phenomenal, and the staff is incredible too. Thank you so much. So Friday is Canadian Library Worker Day, and there truly is no library without our incredible staff. On the programming front, we did increase Frontenac County programming and partnerships. Rural Frontenac Community Services has come up a lot today, so we have partnered with them. We also partner with Early On and with other organizations in the county. We really need to, work together for best use of our resources. And so we've got a picture there from, I think that was Stories at the Point in Sydenham this summer. We're working on our outreach plan for 2026. Would love to hear from you, other municipal staff, the communities on where you would like to see us. So we do outreach. We do pop-ups. We went to the Charbet Lake Farmers Market. We were in Harrowsmith at the Farmers Market. So we're happy to be invited to come and do programs or just talk about what the library has to offer. I am getting to the money. So looking ahead, we're continuing with technology upgrades. So we have some capital in for that. We're updating the library facilities plan based on largely increased growth projections in the city, but because we are, it is such a cohesive system, we'll look at the county as well, and continuing to implement the recommendations there. So one thing that we are just starting to look into is looking at holds lockers for some of the county branches. So we have those at the Calvin Park branch, and so we are looking at piloting potentially holds lockers in looking at potentially Plevna as a start. The Islands are another place where they've been identified as something that could really expand the availability of library services, and continuing to tell our story and demonstrate our impact. So I can say, oh yeah, we lent this many items or this many people visited, but to hear straight from the people who are using the library, the impact it has on their lives is really powerful. So we're continuing to work on demonstrating our impact. So our funding agreement, most of you are probably tired of seeing the slide. We were established in 1998. And so the agreement between the city and the county is that the city will pay 87% of the municipal funding and the county will pay 13%. Facility costs are not included in this formula. So for facilities costs, the City of Kingston provides funding to us to operate and maintain the 5 branches in the city, whereas the townships are the ones who operate and maintain the facilities for the branches in the county. So that means that the facilities costs for the county branches do not appear in our budgets. They appear in the township budgets. There's a small amount that's charged to the county, $15,000, to help cover some of the system-wide operating costs that are provided from the central branch, which is where all the administrative offices, cataloging books, IT, those sorts of services are. Similar budget pressures, inflation. There's not many ways that the library can actually raise money. We are reliant on our municipal and provincial funding. We have, the costs are going up more than the taxpayers would like to pay in tax increases. So we really have gone again line by line over this year's budget to try to keep it as low as possible. Ebook and online resource prices continue to challenge us. We'll pay $100 for an ebook copy that is limited in number of checkouts or time, whereas we can buy a hardcover for $25. So that's very challenging for us. So our 2026 operating, again, these are draft. The library board did get the budget package yesterday as part of their agenda materials. They don't meet until next week. And then city budget deliberations are in January. So we're looking at an overall increase for 2026 for the library's operating budget of 4.93%. And I'll show you how that breaks down between the municipalities on the next slide. Staffing costs are going up 4%. That's negotiated wage increases. We have a collective agreement that we settled earlier this year, and a benefit increase. So things like LTD are going up quite a bit. Collection material, 2.53%. So that's a 1.5% increase to our physical collection lines. That was the direction that agencies received from Mayor Patterson in the city for what the city would like to see the tax rate increase be. And then a larger increase for our electronic resources. Some of them are pay per use and demand is going up. So if we don't provide extra funding, we will have to reduce our level of service there. System-wide costs are going up 5.37%. So this is software, this is contracted services like alarm monitoring. There's all sorts of supplies, internet costs, all of those are shared by the city and the county, and those lines are going up 5.37%. The facilities cost, this is the city of Kingston only, so the county is not charged this. It's going up 24.46%. This is related to reopening the Isabel Turner branch. So that does, I put it in there because it makes the sort of the increases, it helps explain why the city pays more than the county in terms of the increase, but that is not a cost that's charged to the county. So that has $9.63 million as our draft 2026 operating budget. For the County of Frontenac, that's a 4.06% increase, or an extra $41,260 over the 2025 figures. It's a 5.27% increase for the city. And we have a limited amount of self-generated funding. So that's facility rentals. Those are in the city branches, but we include that in the 87-13 split in terms of all the revenue is split. Donations, photocopying and printing fees, non-resident fees. So if you don't live in Kingston or Frontenac County, you do have to pay to get a library card. And grants, expenditure recovery. So for again, that 4.93% increase for 2026. Fairly minor capital requests of the county this year. So we do both shared and unshared again for the capital. So for technology, we're looking at some technology upgrades, increasing our cybersecurity strength, and then we're replacing some equipment we use to do inventory. So the county share of that is $18,993. And then under branch revitalization, again, with the 87-13 split, it would be $13,000 that we would have earmarked for furniture, equipment, other revitalization and renewal projects across the county branches. The $30,000 in unshared costs, that's city janitorial equipment replacement at the central branch. The city also asked us to do operating projections going forward for 3 years, so I have included those as well for your interest. They are subject to change if the draft budget does change for 2026, but we're looking at a little bit higher again, 4.47 for 2027, 3.41 for 2028. Our collective agreements do expire in 2028, so some uncertainty for 2029, which we're projecting 3.39%. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Laura. I'll give you a second to catch your breath.
Okay.
And then we'll ask for questions and comments. Warden Licky.
Okay, not so much question, but a comment. I had the privilege of participating in official reading days where I went to the head branch in Kingston and read out of a novel that was somewhat controversial. It was, when I was much younger, it was really controversial, and I can't believe today it still is. And if you get asked to go, please go. It is worth every minute of your time, 15 to 30 minutes, and the facilities are great, staff are great, and literally, you come away with a sense that you've actually accomplished something, no matter who was listening or how many.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions and comments? Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you for the presentation. That I do use the Kingston Library close to the ferry, and that because there's limited hours on Wolf and that, and it works out. And when I was there last time, that the only printer that was available and that wasn't working. And then it became very selective on what it could do. In contrast, when I was up in Pickering and that at the library, it was a vibrant business center that was actually built into the side of the library. Middle of the day, I was absolutely floored. So when you're talking about the ability to generate extra funds, they had at least 6 different printers going and it was busy, busy, busy. And so I'm just wondering, has there been any thought to developing further I don't think it was even a public-private partnership. I think the library just did it, but certainly Pickering would be worthy of a conversation. And that because it was very impressive. The second piece is I've had the opportunity to view the original maps of the area that are held in Toronto, and that at the Bloor and Yonge Street or Bloor and George Street area of the library. And I'm wondering if there's ever been an idea to bring those down. So you said that you have interlibrary capabilities and that. And I wonder if that could be revenue generating for the sake of a 1 or 2 month showing that the maps I'm talking about basically are the size of this area. They are absolutely huge in the originals from LaSalle and people of that time frame. So I'm just thinking in that, do you think more entrepreneurial sometimes in that in helping to generate the funds?
Thank you. So I apologize, the printers aren't working. I had some printing troubles this morning myself. My least favorite piece of technology, probably. So I think I would say in terms of, I can certainly talk to Pickering. I know the CEO well there. I think different things are needed in different communities. So it's not something that we've necessarily heard a demand for, but something we could look into. And then in terms of, typically people do not lend historic materials or things that are more fragile, but it's certainly something we can look into. We did have an art gallery and shows at the central branch before it closed for renovation. And it is challenging with limited resources to split sort of your capabilities. So we're not a gallery or a museum. So we do really try and focus on library services, but certainly I wasn't necessarily aware of those resources. So definitely something that we could look into, even if it's providing that information, scanning them or letting people know that they do exist elsewhere in the province. The Toronto Public Library does get funding to do some province-wide initiatives, given their size and the scope of their resources and being a net lender for things like interlibrary loan. So they do have that sort of province-wide role as well.
Councillor Vanderwall.
I'm not just picking on you there, but you put the slide up there about projections for the next 3 years. When I was on the library, they did the same thing, 5-year projection of it would be nice to see those old numbers to see how they matched up with what's, and that works for the county. Everybody else that does 5-year projections, it would be curious to see, do they actually line up or is it just a guideline?
So thank you for your question. I was actually paying close attention to them because we are coming in with a 4.93% increase when I have been asked to bring a 1.5% increase for the city. So we are lower than what we projected we would be this year for the city and the overall increase. I think the county increase is actually a little bit higher. And I think some of that is that system-wide contracted services line. So we are seeing some software cost increase higher than what we expected. We've sort of used to now seeing in the range of 2 to 3% is what a lot of vendors are just passing on. I think people are sort of used to it. And so some of the software costs are increasing. With the new website, we are moving to it being hosted in the web. So in the event of any sort of cyber attack or disruption, that means your website is not totally down. So that is an extra cost that actually is coming forward this year that I hadn't accounted for this year. But I can say we did project an overall increase of over 5% for 2026. And I have managed to sort of chip away at it a little bit to bring it under 5.
Well, I won't remember and I might not be here in 3 years. I want to see the 3 point something. one.
Okay, all right.
Duly noted. You'll be in your 22nd year at that point. Yes, okay. I see no further questions. Oh, sorry. Councillor Gowdy.
Thank you. I just want to say a thank you for all the outreach programs you are doing in the rural areas. The families and seniors in particular are really enjoying the Reading at the Point. They're enjoying the pop-ups throughout the county. A lot of them didn't understand a lot of the services you offer. So your maker bees that you've been doing and showing them, buttons and different things that are going on. They're very enjoying those. So thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a create space at the central branch, but we have small versions of 3D printers and some of that equipment that we can take on the road. And so partnering with other groups, we're able to come to their meetings or set up our own little makerspace tour this summer to introduce people to the technology. And we can also sort of print, it's not just keychains or, fun little figures with the 3D printer, but also accessibility tools. So that was a partnership with a seniors group where we can actually look at, things for door opening or, other accessibility tools using our 3D printer.
Seeing no other questions or comments, I want to thank you. Well, I thought maybe there was one more coming, but I guess it's not. I want to thank you for your presentation. And we look forward to, I guess, the budget being finalized and brought forward.
Thank
So
you.
thank you again. I'm gonna, Councillor Vanderwall, I'm gonna continue with the agenda if that's okay. Thank you. Our next presentation is Anna Campbell and Peyton Hunt, who will provide County Council with a presentation of integrating clinical pathways into your BPSO journey. Thank you so much. Please come to the microphone.
Rebecca McEwen, one of our NPs, is also joining our presentation. So you know.
Thank you. We are very pleased to have been invited here to meet with you and share all the exciting work that we've been doing at Fairmount Home over the last year and a half. And yes, I did want to, somehow Rebecca got, she was not included, but she is definitely one of our co-leads of our BPSO program. Myself, Anna Campbell, I'm the other nurse practitioner at Fairmount Home. I'm the other co-lead, and then Peyton Hunt is leading our Clinical Pathways program. And we will explain what all of this jargon means throughout the presentation. So for those of you who are new to the concept and the language, BPSO stands for Best Practice Spotlight Organization. It is an initiative put forth by the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. The BPSO movement is a global initiative that strives to incorporate evidence-based practice into all sectors of healthcare, including long-term care, through the implementation of best practice guidelines. There are over 50 best practice guidelines, which are evidence-based documents that include recommendations for healthcare teams, professionals, and leaders to improve outcomes for individuals and their support networks. As part of our journey to become a BPSO, or Best Practice Spotlight Organization, we have committed to implementing 3 best practice guidelines over the next 3 years. We currently hold a pre-designate status until we have completed our deliverables at the end of the 3 years. Our journey began as a BPSO pre-designate in April 2024, and we've been hard at work ever since. The best practice guidelines that we have chosen to work on are people-centered care, which is a foundational best practice guideline that incorporates recommendations related to a person-centered approach to all aspects of care, including social, cultural, and personal values and beliefs incorporated into the care that we provide. Part of the work we have done is integrated into clinical pathways, which Peyton will speak to, but essentially looks to gather important information about one's values and beliefs and incorporating that into their care plans. We have also developed end-of-life care plans, which have been successful at tailoring the end-of-life process for individuals and includes their preferences for things like scents, music, tastes, and pet visits. The second best practice guideline that we are focusing on is transitions in care and services. Transitions happen throughout one's journey through long-term care, starting with moving into long-term care. Each time someone has to be transferred to a hospital or back, and the transitions toward end of life. The third best practice guideline that we are focusing on is pressure injury management, risk assessment, prevention, and treatment. And Rebecca will speak to our work about that a little more. As part of our contract with the RNAO through the BPSO program, we have a number of deliverables that we need to reach by the end of year 3. We're pleased to report that 1.5 years into our journey, we have met all but one deliverable, and we are well positioned to becoming a BPSO. Some of the highlights over the last 1.5 years is that we were able to achieve the goal of 20% of our staff being trained as RNAO champions, meaning they have taken the required education to learn about evidence-based practice, how to influence change, and spur social movement to adopt a cultural shift and gain an understanding of their role in improving health and quality for the life of our residents. We've also had Fairmount Home representation annually at both the RNAO Symposium and Institutes. For 2 years in a row, we have abstracts submitted, accepted, and have presented at their annual conference to highlight some of the work we've been doing here at Fairmount. In 2024, Rebecca and I presented on achieving public visibility, and then more recently in 2025, 2 of our staff did a presentation on our work with the end-of-life care plans. We've developed networks with other homes within long-term care, both through the RNAO and these conferences, to share policies, quality improvement strategies, and tools. Rebecca and I are currently mentoring a team at another long-term care home who are working on their palliative care program. Most notably, our wound care team has been working extremely hard on reducing our incidence of pressure injuries, which Rebecca will speak to in more detail. Rebecca has also recently submitted a manuscript to OARC Seasons Journal, highlighting the work of our wound care team. Our last deliverable is to submit an application for an Advanced Clinical Practice Fellowship, which we're hoping to submit this winter with a plan to work on developing and promoting capacity home-wide when dealing with responsive behaviors in individuals with advanced dementia. I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca, who's going to speak to our wound care.
Great, thank you so much. So as Anna had mentioned, one of our deliverables was completing the risk assessment and prevention of pressure ulcers best practice guideline. When we started this journey, and you're looking at points A and B on this graph, what this is the data that, this was our pre-implementation data. So prior to putting in these evidence-based practices, our pressure injury incidences were well above 2%. At this time, we're looking at Health Quality Ontario as our benchmark as to where we should be. And the province, the average was 2%. So as you can see, significantly higher in the summer of 2024. Then as we're looking at C, there was a practice change. And what that practice change was to review exactly what their plan of cares were, and were we even doing risk assessments on these folks. And based on the risk assessment, we can find out how at risk are you of developing a pressure injury. So we found out that there was a bit of an inconsistency in practice. So what we did was we standardized our risk assessments. So upon admission or upon return of a transfer, say they went to emergency and came back to Fairmount Home, we did a risk assessment that was going to be the same risk assessment that was done quarterly, because that's what, for the data collection, all of our residents are done assessments quarterly, so that we're not comparing apples to oranges. We're looking at the same consistent risk assessments. And based on this, as Anna had mentioned, that we have developed a network, and we called a friend. We called Niagara Health Region, as they had already used clinical pathways and they had already developed policies in regards to pressure injury prevention. Yes, doing a risk assessment, great. so what? What are you going to do about it based on their risk score? So after around the C area, this is when we developed what we wanted to do. And based on this, we created basically a checklist, or these are the best practices based on their risk score. We've implemented the pressure ulcer risk score, and this puts them into a risk category of either very low, low risk, a moderate risk, high risk, or a very high risk. And based on this, it addresses all needs such as what's the proper pressure relief surface that we should have in place. Should they be turned, or are they able to turn themselves, and what that frequency is? Of course, this is certainly the interventions that are recommended based on evidence-based practice, but no plan is good unless you have the buy-in from the resident themselves and their substitute decision makers. So this is the gold standard, and this is offered to all of our residents at this time. So by implementing this, as you can see after D, E, and F at the end of the graph, this is where we're currently tracking our data after implementing this, and we are very close to the 2% target. Going forward, this data is a little bit old, and we have been maintaining below 2% over the past summer months. So what this ultimately means for our residents is less pressure injuries, which is less incidences of infection, which could lead to a transfer to emergency if they have complications as a result of the wounds. Folks with wounds, it's a change in your body, increased risks of depression, pain, and certainly there's healthcare associated costs related to these wounds. So overall, we're trending well with this reduction, with these changes.
Okay, clinical pathways. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with clinical pathways, but essentially it's a program that's within our electronic documenting system, Point Click Care. And it's a structured multidisciplinary pathway that helps build care plans to outline essential steps of care for our residents for specific clinical problems, but also specific into what their goals of care are as well, and what discussion with the family and the residents moving forward, so that we're all on the same page and we're following their wishes. So it's designed to standardize the care, improve the outcomes, and promote our resident-centered approach, which closely aligns with one of the deliverables that Anna was speaking to, the person-centered care. So we started our clinical pathways journey about a year after starting our BPSO journey. So we're actually just about a year in now. So within the clinical pathways, there is quite a substantial amount of pre-work, but it's good because it helps lay the groundwork for what we're going to be doing moving forward. So one of the first things it wanted us to do was create a governance structure, which helps us define our leadership roles and responsibilities, which is always important. We then look to doing a gap analysis. And essentially what a gap analysis is that it outlines all of our current practices versus what the best practices are. And it helps you go through to decide if you are already meeting a best practice standard, if you've partially met it, or if you're unmeeting it right now. And what that really does is it highlights our areas for improvement moving forward, but it also highlights all the great work that we've been doing before. So it can be motivational just as much as kind of making an action plan. From that, we then go into an education plan that helps us outline how we're going to inform and engage staff about the changes and the culture shift that will come with that. From there, we look at building a sustainability and evaluation plan, which ensures the long-term success and continuous improvement of the program. We want to make sure that we're supporting it not just at the beginning, but as we continuously use it moving forward. So our first three pathways, which we've already implemented, is the admissions, delirium, and resident and family-centered care. So those went live earlier this year. And we're currently working on our pain and falls pathways right now. So it kind of goes in steps for implementing these pathways. So the first three we've done, we're moving on to the next two. And then after we implement these, there's going to be two more after that, and so on and so forth. So education and engagement is always extremely important. these sessions are both critical before and after program implementation. We obviously want to support our staff to know how to use these pathways prior to implementing it, but it's also really important to try to keep that engagement and then circle back after it has been implemented as well to see how it's working within like the Fairmont home culture and our workflows. It's also been helpful to use many scenarios and real life scenarios that we can see in the home to help build our competence on the floor. So we like to give like a little scenario to the staff prior to implementation, and then they kind of work through the scenario with the pathway to see what's it going to look like and how they're going to be utilizing it on the floor. These also give us really great times to see the insight from staff. They're the ones on the floor doing the work. So they're going to be the ones that see where we might have gaps versus manager on the other side. There may be things that I'm missing. So it's always really great to get their information throughout the whole process as well. So what's going well? Always excited to talk about. So improved workflow. I'll tell you as a nurse, one of the things to get buy-in is if you make something more effective and efficient, you're going to get buy-in from the nurses on the floor, just knowing how busy being a nurse can be, but then also putting your focus really where you really want it to be, which is on the residents. So the pathways have streamlined our workflow, especially our admission pathway has hugely improved our workflow, but also how the residents and families perceive Fairmont Home when they first come to. It's helped us ask the right questions to ensure we have the best care plans possible for our residents. Alignment with our existing philosophy. So one of the really great things about Fairmont Home, which I know you guys are all aware of, is our gentle care philosophy, which aligns really well with our resident and family-centered care pathway, which has helped amalgamate this pathway into Fairmont Home. There is a big culture shift when it comes to the languages used around the home. And when we were looking again at our gap, we noted that there are a lot of great things that we're already doing. So it was nice to build upon that. Staff engagement, extremely important as well. Staff were enthusiastic about the pathways initially, again, kind of looking to that nursing perspective that it is going to be, that it does improve workflow and resident outcomes. So that was helpful. Then we look to our leadership on the floor. One of the things that we did moving forward is we wanted to have specific leads on the floor, having those nurses who understand the pathways a bit more, who can support their colleagues on the floor. So having these leads provided some real-time support, education and leadership, distributing responsibility just beyond the management team. It's one thing for a management team to be doing all the great work ahead, but we want to make sure that that's trickling down. So it was really great to have that liaison in between to help support the floor. And then integrating into our BPSO. Clinical Pathways is grounded in best practice, which Anna and Rebecca already spoke to. So it has aligned well with our journey to becoming a BPSO organization. And the additional in-house education has further boosted our staff's confidence and competence.
So where we are going next, we keep talking about BPSO as a journey because it really is that. There is the initial 3 years of the pre-designated period. But the goal is ultimately to be a best practice spotlight organization ongoing for decades to come. And then so that what that really means is a continued commitment to quality improvement and a continued commitment to implementing evidence-based practice. Where we are going next is, as I said, that application for the fellowship, which we are hoping to do this winter 2026. Which is a big undertaking. It's a large application for a 6-month part-time fellowship for one of our nursing staff to complete and really undertake a project. So we can apply for it. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll get it, but we're hoping to apply this winter. We need to finalize our transitions best practice guideline. As I said, Rebecca had submitted the manuscript and we're just waiting to hear if that's been accepted. And then to continue our clinical pathways journey as well, which, as Peyton had mentioned, is kind of prescriptive. They tell you what clinical pathway is up next. So that is where we're going, and we will take any questions.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to questions, first of all, Rebecca, apologies for not introducing you.
Sorry.
The others, if the three of you take a short look to your right, you'll see a very happy, smiling staff person who's very much enjoying this presentation. So if it's okay, we'll turn it over to questions. Councillor Vanderwall.
Sorry, first I have a comment. This has been in place now, what, a couple of years? And it's really great to see the progress that you're making. Obviously, it's making a difference. Yeah, had the same observation. She's looking at like, my kids are up there and how wonderful they're doing. Grinning very proudly like a mom almost, but anyway, I think it's wonderful. The only question I had was you made a comment to say, family wishes. And I wonder what happens when the family wishes this, but it's not best practices, or you don't agree, or it's not what we should be doing. How do you bridge that?
I mean, I think that's a tough one. I think a lot of times it comes down to early communication and often communication. A lot of times that involves education, education about what is best practice and why, not just, the experts say it's this, but the reasoning behind that. It really comes down to what people want, what their goals of care. And I think most of the time you can find some common ground. This is what the evidence tells us. I've given you all the education about why. And then coming to some sort of common ground, I think, is usually the most helpful. That education piece usually resolves that, I find.
Of course, I have a little bit of extra. So sometimes it's getting down to the understanding of the why, and also incorporating the large picture of who this person was prior to coming into Fairmount Home. There's a lot of losses moving into a long-term care facility, and certainly being prescriptive as, well, this is your risk score, we will do that, this, and this, almost negates them as that individual that they were before. Also recognizing that even though someone's risk score may be very high, the trajectory of what diseases that they have may impact their ability to actually continue with what is evidence-based practice. For example, are folks with major neurocognitive disorder or dementia, for example, we anticipate that as they approach as they live with their dementia, that their oral intake will decrease. But if you look at this best practice guideline, it is push that nutrition and make sure that they are eating and drinking extremely well. But ultimately, the underlying disease is not allowing them to do so as they live with it. So there's a bit of an art to it, and as Anna said, finding some common ground and providing that education. But there may be, we might be able to implement X, Y, and Z that reflects that individual, who they are, and they're able to participate it, recognizing that the entire picture, including their disease trajectory, may influence what exactly we can support them with.
Councillor Greenwood-Spears.
Congratulations on going this far in the program, and I'm very pleased that you have this pathway piece. But I was looking at the falls, and it made me also think of aggressive behavior, and aggressive behavior has been a problem in that, and it's not just delirium, not just dementia, and that there's a true psychosis for some in that. So I'm just wondering, how do you plan on bringing that forward, and how soon do you plan on bringing that forward? Because it can obviously contribute to injuries.
Absolutely. So I can speak to the delirium piece. So that is one of the initial pathways that we are asked to do. And part of that is, so if we do note that a resident is potentially experiencing symptoms of delirium, that's when the staff would use that evidence-based pathway to lead us through what the best possible outcomes are. And one of the things that it does is it actually pops up some clinical suggestions that are pulled right from that best practice guideline, which helps ensure our nurses on the floor are following best practices, communicating with the medical team. Delirium is something that those living with dementia or in long-term care are at a higher risk for. So it's something that we always have to continue to educate and be aware of. And I would say the pathway in general has really helped with that. We're seeing it used more on the floor, which again gets our brains going to ensuring we're following best practice.
But what about the aggressive behavior?
So are you speaking to responsive behaviors in terms of if somebody has delirium or just in general? So in general, there is not a pathway that we're implementing right now. It could be down the line, but right now we're focusing on the pain and falls after the other one. So there's not one specific to responsive behaviors. I would ultimately be a little bit surprised if there was one. In terms of how individualized responsive behaviors can be, we do have a lot of great work with our responsive behaviors team on the floor, and they would be the best people to really speak to that because they really get into who that resident is individually. But there is not a pathway. The next two pathways are actually for palliative and end of life care after we initiate our pain and our falls. But the delirium does heavily support ensuring that residents don't get into that delirium, which can cause responsive behaviors.
I can just add to that, the Advanced Clinical Practice Fellowship that we're hoping to apply for, we are hoping to apply for it with a program to address responsive behaviors as a whole. We haven't finalized the details of that. And again, as I said, it is an application. We can't control whether or not we will be accepted. But it is to look at the responsive behaviors program and really to help develop champions on the home areas who are trained to recognize early interventions and be proactive, a more proactive approach when dealing with responsive behaviors. The delirium piece is huge because these residents are high risk for delirium for a large number of reasons. And some of that can be environmental stimuli. So just having staff be more in tune to the delirium piece and all of the causes that could be potentially contributing to those responsive behaviors has been really helpful.
Councillor Leonard?
Thank you. Well, I see a lot of smiles and that's great to see. And I see another one sticking around in the back there. I can't quite see her. She was smiling too, but when people are smiling and they're happy in what they're doing, that is, to me, that is one big bonus. And there she is. She got a bigger smile back there now, yeah. I have witnessed a fair bit of this going on, and I'll tell you this, he's doing a great job. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And on that positive note, I think we will end with the questions and comments. I want to thank you for your presentation and congratulations on some excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is our CEO, Kevin Farrell, and he will provide council with his monthly CAO update. Thank you.
Could I just make I'll just make that. Henry Hogg passed away yesterday. Longtime politician, still in the role. But anyway, he passed away yesterday.
Mr. Farrell.
So good morning, Warden, Deputy Warden, and Council. I'll take you through the CIO update for October 2025. And as always, I'll touch on the main points and happy to answer any questions. Perfect. So first off, just to highlight a few items from my October schedule, we held a successful employee service recognition event on October 2nd. We served up lots of good food and games at a staff wellness barbecue on October 9th. The Frontenac Municipal Services Technical Support Committee is meeting this afternoon. They'll continue their work focusing on small systems, developer guidelines, cost analysis, and their ongoing advocacy with the province. The Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus will be at Parliament Hill in Ottawa, October 20th and 21st. I'll be sticking close to home with a baby on the way, but Warden Lichty will be representing Frontenac County at that event. We have council budget presentations coming up on October 28th and 29th. Staff are working very hard preparing their presentations and finalizing the budget information to present to council at that time. In terms of a human resources update, for recruitment, we have 319 postings as of October 6th. Recruitment, as always, is ongoing at Fairmount Home, and we have 6 new paramedic hires. Labor Relations, our QP 2290 union, we have interest arbitration scheduled for the evening of November 19th. However, we have been invited back to the table for November 6th, so we're hoping we can reach a deal without having to go to that interest arbitration stage. Bargaining is ongoing with OPSU 462, which is our paramedic union. We last met October 6th, and the next date is scheduled for December 1st. 2 grievances were recently withdrawn at mediation. There's some ongoing investigations, and in terms of miscellaneous, our EDI committee met on October 1st. We are planning some challenging your bias training for December 3rd. And as I mentioned, we had a revised service recognition program that we rolled out on October 2nd. The committee revised, planned, and implemented all the changes, and it was well received from staff. Planning for conflict modes workshop will be done in-house. September 30th marked 1 year with Chief Gowdy leading our paramedic service. Unfortunately, he's unable to be here today, but I wanted to highlight a few items from the past year. And thank you to Deputy Chief Herchabees for being in attendance today if there's any questions. In January, with council approval, we added a new 12-hour paramedic resource to meet growing demands. 2 new superintendents, Shauna Dunn and Lindsay Esford, stepped into the role, while superintendents Mark Podgers, Richard Russell, and Mike Van Hardingsveld received their 30-year exemplary service medals this year. We rolled out new Zoll cardiac monitors and have been involved with the implementation of the new medical priority dispatch system. We had a successful ambulance service review, certifying the service through to September 2028. And we've been working closely with the city, who will soon begin construction of a new joint fire and paramedic station at Taylor Kidd and Demers. Thank you to council for approving the installation of a new generator fuel tank for Fairmount Home. It was installed on September 25th and provides the home with added capacity of approximately 72 hours of backup power. A new transfer switch will also replace the aging switch that was installed back in 2003. Measurable digital engagements for September were up 10% from last month and 10% from the same period last year. The top most engaged with items in September were a celebration of a cardiac arrest save hat trick, so 3 pins awarded to paramedic Jess, a job posting for the temporary executive assistant role, which we've now filled, and an image of the Canadian Forces snowbirds over Royal Military College. A request for proposals for the Natural Heritage Study was issued on September 9th, with deadlines for submissions extended until October 23rd. Planning applications remain steady in September, with approximately 40% through delegated authority. The Frontenac Business Retreat is planned for October 21st at RKY Camp. The 2025 Business Awards are planned for November 18th at Piccadilly Hall in Godfrey. That'll take place between 5 and 7 p.m. And there were 2 healthcare in our community sessions held September 29th, which was a virtual session, and October 7th, which was an in-person session. These were well attended with plenty of community engagement. Next steps will be to summarize the input and feedback to form a community working group. And I'd like to thank Debbie Miller and Rob Wood for their coordination and facilitation of those important sessions. Research and background work continues for the Municipal Accommodation Tax Feasibility Study. Community survey is available until November 14th, and open houses and virtual sessions are planned with more details available on Engage Frontenac. As you see here, our first annual employee recognition event took place on October 2nd, as I mentioned earlier. It took place in the Fairmount Auditorium. It was a drop-in event where we celebrated staff milestones from across our organization, bringing folks together from Fairmount Home, our paramedics, Marine and Corporate Services. It was great to mingle, share stories, and recognize and honor staff for their years of dedicated service. And a big thank you to Warden Lichty for attending and being part of that celebration. I do want to take this opportunity to welcome Alex Hammond to the role of Executive Assistant. We are excited to have you on board, and a big thank you goes out to Amy Freeburn for her contributions as we wish her well in her new role as Administrative Clerk for Frontenac Paramedics. Finally, I look forward to seeing everyone at the Warden's reception on November 17th at the Clare Mill Hall in Plevna to celebrate the Warden's term as Warden. On that note, thank you, Council, and I will take any questions at this time.
Councillor Vanderwall.
It's just a comment. I was quite disappointed that the staff didn't have regard for South Frontenac when they had the health care in our community. When the presentation was done here, it was all about what was South Frontenac going to do? Are we going to build a community hub? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? And then they hold it on a night when council can't be there. So all of our council wanted to be there because we wanted to hear the discussion. And I think it was very disappointing that it was held on a Tuesday night. So are the awards ceremony going to be held also on one of our council meetings? On, I guess, a positive note, municipal taxes on Wednesday finally in South Frontenac. But I just want to comment that I think that was very disappointing, especially when we want to be involved in the healthcare in our community. Thank you. It's just a comment.
Councillor Greenwood-Spears.
Okay, a question about the survey, and that is possible to get some hard copies, both for the MAT tax and I believe the budget survey is still available at this point in time. I bet several residents have made the point to me that, you know, it's not in their skill set to go through that. And I actually went on the website thinking, well, maybe I can print them out something, and I could not, and that it doesn't lend itself to printing. But I think that we're missing something. And if there is that ability to make a hard copy, I'd suggest using a size 14 type of font, something larger, because it's usually that group that really appreciates having a little bit larger font. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, and we will take that back and take a look at that. And just to follow up on the previous comment, so we have had internal conversations around improving communication and outreach in coordination with our township counterparts. Thank you.
Councillor Fowler.
Yes, the MAT tax, thanks for bringing it up. I've been getting some feedback from different people that they're not happy. They look at it as an extra cost for them when they're using accommodations in the area. It has that little bit of a negative thing to it. I know it's about 4% or something like that as it was presented, but not everybody's happy about it. I'm just relaying that.
Seeing no other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Farrell. So if we continue with the agenda, there is no unfinished business. There are no consent reports from the Chief Administrative Officer, and there's no meeting of the Committee of Management of Fairmount Homes, which takes us to recommended reports from the Chief Administrative Officer. The first report is 2025-079, Emergency and Transportation Services, 2026 Legislative Response Time Performance Plan.
Moved by Councillor Greenwood-Spears, seconded by Councillor Vanderwall. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Emergency and Transportation Services 2026 Legislative Response Time Performance Plan report for information, and further that Council direct the clerk to introduce a bylaw later in the meeting and adopting the 2026 Response Time Performance Plan.
Comments, questions? Councillor Vanderwall.
So when I look at the report that was here, and I look at 1 and 2, obviously they're critical and they're there very quickly. I don't know if our fire departments are still called out on 1 or 2 because of the severity. But when I look at the other times, 3, 4, 5, it's 60 minutes, 120 minutes, and 240 minutes. Obviously, that's dependent on availability of staff. But what can our what does this do to our fire departments because of medical calls? If paramedic schedule says 60 minutes, of course, every one of our fire departments are going to get called every time there's a medical or every time there's a paramedic call. So I don't know how we separate the two on a municipal level to say Well, why should we send our fire department when the criteria is already 60 minutes? And our fire departments get called out if I think it's 20. So how do we fix that? How do we, other than if we go to our residents and say, well, okay, now we're not going to send fire unless paramedics can't get there in 61 minutes. I don't think they're going to want that level of service changed either. So I guess I don't know how do you balance the two and still not send out our fire all the time? I mean, it's a large, I know it got better under the new call system, but it's still a large part of our resources are going to medical.
Mr. Farrell?
So I can start. As you pointed out, we have the new medical priority dispatch system. So it's been in place, I believe, since February. So we only have a few months of data on that. These response times that are before council today are aligned with those, that new dispatch system. They were implemented, these response times last year by this council. We're looking to follow up and stick to that so we can get more data on that dispatch system. The piece around fire, there is tiered response agreements, and those discussions are ongoing between the paramedic chief and the fire chiefs to align with this new system, especially those 3, 4, and 5s that you're pointing out that have longer response times laid out, 60, 120, 240, depending on the resources that are available. I can't speak to the what those actual calls stand for, like what a CTAS 5 is, but maybe I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Herchebes if he wants to add anything.
I'll certainly do my best. These times align with what the dispatch system deems these calls can be held for. So like CTAS 3, 60 minutes, they align with the other triage systems that, you know, when you go to the hospital, it's not like you're seen right away. You can walk through the door, you go to see the triage nurse, and you'll be placed in the waiting room. So similarly, these times are, you've made a call for a request for an ambulance. They can hold this call for 60 minutes while there are other calls happening. When the 60 minutes time arrives, then it's up to our dispatch center to say, okay, it's been held for 60 minutes. Now we need to get somebody on it. It allows us to keep more resources in play for the higher acuity calls, like life-threatening injuries or illness, or like the sudden cardiac arrest that you see as the SCA at the top and then priority 1. 3s, 4s, 5s, it is very fluid in the sense of how they are triaged. There is a whole category as what is a CTAS 5. That would be like a sprained ankle. Someone can't get up, they've hurt themselves. There's no life-threatening injury there. They can sit on that for a little while, and that's why the timeframes are set the way they are.
Sorry, did that answer your question, Calvin?
Could add to that then, no, but so I have no problem if this is the guideline. I don't have a problem with that. But then how does the phone system, how do we get it that fire is not dispatched if it's a 60 minutes? Because, I mean, no disrespect to anybody who's waiting for paramedic or anything else, but to send fire out when we know it, the priority is 60 minutes and our fire is getting called out at 20. So I would like to see the system somehow change or cleaned up or whatever that says, okay, we're not going to dispatch fire because we know already that there's a 60-minute guideline, something like that. I mean, if they need to be called out, I agree. I want them to go out. But if the criteria says 60 minutes, why are we going out at 20? That's the challenge that I'm struggling with as a municipality.
Sorry, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, I appreciate the comment, and I think that's the importance of the ongoing discussions with the fire chiefs and working through those upgrading or updating those tiered response agreements to align with these changes.
So other questions, Councillor Spears and then Warden. Oh, sorry, Chief. Sorry, Deputy Chief. I told you we were going to find somebody to pick on today. So.
Sure. So in speaking to your 20 minutes, if we are holding a call, if we are deeming that the call can be held for 60 minutes, there should be no reason that a fire service be called before then. These timeframes allow us to hold that call for 60 minutes for us. We need more data. Like Mr. Farrell said, we are still working with the fire departments to look at that data and see how to best implement. But it would be like, if there's no reason for a paramedic to go before 60 minutes, I don't see why we would be sending a fire service prior to that. So again, we'll collect more data, and I'm certain we'll have more available once, and we're hoping to get to that year point before we can really look at all this data together.
So a year of this service should really give us a better handle on it. Thank you.
Mr. Farrell, you're okay? Thank you. So, Councilor Goon Spears and then Warden Litkey.
Okay, I do appreciate that it is the government that has set out these guidelines and that I don't agree with them, but that's neither here nor there. But speaking to Councillor Vanderwall's point regarding the fire department and that, and recognizing the rural nature, to think that somebody would call 911 and no call might be made to the fire department that is closer for up to 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours in some cases, and that it just boggles the mind in that. And I look at the CTAS 5, which one of the classifications is there is somebody with suicidal ideation. And I can't imagine waiting basically 4 hours before sending anyone out for support or help. And I'm just wondering, when somebody's calling into 911, if this is the guideline that's followed by the OPP in responding as well, because it just does not seem to meet anyone's sense of urgency if they're dialing 911. And this is the time frame that they're looking at. And it's more than just a sprained ankle and that, and certainly there can be minor things in rural settings and that, generally speaking, from my township, if there's a possibility that they load them into their car, they're heading to the boat, et cetera, and that to get off the island as quick as they can. But when you deal with, the more serious incidents, I look at the fire department being called out, and not everybody, and sometimes nobody, is certified first responder. They are responding as trained firefighters, but they haven't got that level of first response, and they may be at that scene for an hour or two. So I'm wondering if there needs to be not just discussion, but a stronger partnership and agreement. If the firefighters are expected to stand in as paramedics for a period of time in rural settings, that there is sufficient support for them. But going back to this guideline that is put out by the province, and that, I got to tell you, I'm appalled by it.
Mr. Farrell, you want to comment?
Just an important note. So if a resource is available, it will be deployed. These 60, 120, 240 minutes kind of would only come into play if the system is at full capacity and the focus is on CSA 1 and 2.
No, what I just heard is that the fire department would be held back as well. So it's not just the availability of the paramedics. This is being applied to the fire department as well. Or am I wrong on that?
We're still working through the details. Like, when I said we are holding calls, it's because we don't have, when we reach a certain number of available units. So on a day shift, you have 14 ambulances throughout the city and the county of Frontenac. I don't know what the exact number is, but let's say it's one ambulance is available for the entire region. These calls, when they come in, are then put on hold. Not that they're not important, but they're put on hold because we don't have enough to meet then the criteria of the sudden cardiac arrest or priority ones. When more resources become available, then we start allocating those calls to the other resources.
So going back to my firefighter scenario, are we saying then that they are being notified when the call comes in?
Appropriately as designed in the system, they will be sent out. I just want to add to the caveat of, like, when there is a delay, the people calling for an ambulance are told one will be sent as soon as possible. If before they get there are any changes, they can call back. The dispatcher will then take the new information, whatever changes are made, and the priority can be readjusted at that time. So it is possible to have a CTAS 5 start out at a 5, but 20, 30 minutes later, or any time frame, if that person calls back and there's new information given to the dispatcher, they will adjust it at that point, and it can bump up throughout the call levels.
Sorry, Warden Lidke was next.
So on this, having had some personal experience with the services and so on, I think there are times that fire can come and fire can respond, and an ambulance may be freed up if it's simply a fall, no one's hurt. Not everybody has to go to the hospital. They give you the option. And they asked you, do you want police, fire, or ambulance? So the caller on the 911 call is making that choice as a first option. And then if it's going to be 2 hours for an ambulance to show up, maybe that can be resolved in 20 or 30 minutes. So your local fire department comes, at least for some of the incidents where they can clear the situation, the person's fine, and the ambulance can then be released and not taken off the call. So there's got to be a little more, from what I'm hearing, a little more understanding among the politicians and among fire and among the paramedic system.
Thank you. I assume, Deputy, that you would take that under advisement. Thank you. Councillor Vanderwall.
Just a couple of comments. If you're gonna look at the changes in fire from last year to this year, it's gonna have a huge impact on our budgets. And that's on-call firefighters now. So that's gonna be it. Well, I know it's a dramatic change in our budget for this coming year. So though, every time there's a call, those costs are there for us, not supported by provincial funding or anything else. Those are borne by our taxpayers. So that's my concern. The second part, just to answer about police, we were at a police services meeting and they don't have to respond up to 6 days if it's not an emergency. Or it was longer maybe even, but we just heard the last time there, it was crazy the length of time.
If I could, Mr. Farrell, there's obviously a lot of interest in this. Would it be appropriate to have a follow-up presentation at an upcoming council meeting?
Yep, we could take that back for consideration.
Thank you. Seeing,
Had the conversation with fire and all that, it would be really interesting to know.
seeing no, oh, sorry, Warden Lidke.
Just a final comment. I've had the privilege of touring some of the paramedic stations and so on, and listening to some of the concerns and the challenges we face. I know what our plan is, but I would like to see, and I'm not asking for a motion, just making a comment at this point in time, which I've previously made to the CAO, that we see as a council an overall projection of where our paramedic system is going to go for the next 5 or 6 years. Not just we need an ambulance a year. There are staffing issues, there's supervisory, there's training issues, there's physical infrastructure issues. These are big, big, big dollars. And just seeing an ambulance at $750,000 every year for 9 years, I don't think that is enough, because the hidden cost or the associated cost is a whole lot more. So I'm not asking for a motion, not putting it forward, just putting that in the CAO's ear and comments in the councilor's ear that there's a whole picture here that we really have to take a look at. And adding the fire into this now just makes it even that much more difficult.
But on that note, we invest in $1 million fire truck every year, or facilities, or training, or everything else with no provincial support. So the dollars are just as big for our community as you're thinking about paramedic. They're huge too.
So I'm gonna call an end to the conversation, and I see the CEO has made some notes. There was no official motion, but I think you've got some notes for follow-up. Thank you. So that ends the discussion on that particular motion. All those in favor? Passed. Next item is item 2025-080, Planning and Economic Development KNP Trail established dedicated reserves.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Leonard. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac authorize staff to establish a dedicated KMP Trail Reserve Fund, and further that council allocates $350,000 from the strategic reserve to the KMP Trail Reserve, and further that any surplus from the KMP Trail operating budget in each year be directed to the KMP Trail Reserve.
Comments, questions? Counselor Fowler. Thank you very much.
Yes, I was reading through this report here, and I see that it's $350,000 from the reserve plan going into KMP. And I don't think, in some ways, I don't really believe that this should happen. Also, I look at the Canada Community Building Fund. That's our gas tax. And none of that is going to the road. It's all going back to the trail. And I've brought this up before, and it is a concern. It's not only a concern to me, but it's a concern to some of the people in my area too. Also, $100,000 going to the trailheads from the county, and then I believe that we're going to be having the townships, asking the townships to contribute some money to these trailheads as well, and also find areas where they would be more appropriate. So I think there's a lot of things that are going on here. And last, we've got 100,000 to 125,000 going to replace the Anton Creek Bridge. And I understand that's going to be going ahead very soon. But that's, to me, that was something that, in my opinion, and from what I understand, this was a preventable thing if we had proper communications between us and the people in the area. I just bringing that up. These are concerns that we have up there as a community.
Mr. Farrell?
So I'll start with the CCBF funding, which is formerly the gas tax funding. So as of 2016, all the CCBF funding that comes to the county gets distributed down to the townships. There was an earmarked portion of that has been used for the trail. With our most recent ROD application and using the remaining funds from our CCBF allocation here at the county, we're essentially depleting what's left of that gas tax here at the county level. So what we're trying to accomplish through this report is to set up some dedicated reserve funds to manage and operate the trail moving forward. Now we've worked very hard on land acquisition and building the trail, but we need some kind of funds in order to continue to maintain it and operate it.
Just one comment back to that. One of my concerns is the condition of our roads in our township. We were having a hard time keeping up the roads, and the roads are not built to some of the standards in the rest of the county. We use tar and chip up in our way. It doesn't hold up as well. And that's our main roads. Those are our main roads. And I would like to see some of that money go back to help us keep our roads in better condition than what they are now.
Let me turn to the clerk for a second. Should this require an amendment or to address the concerns?
I'm not seeing an amendment. I'm seeing it being defeated, that we're not, or I see Councillor Fowler voting against allocating $350,000 from that strategic reserve. It wouldn't be an amendment to put it into a whole new reserve or send it to the townships. That would be a separate report because that is not germane to this motion.
So, Councillor Fowler, so you're aware, you have the option of defeating?
He has the option of defeating, or you could move a motion to defer this pending. I don't know. We could defer it.
This is
get
more for
another
information
coming forward.
right now, how some people feel in the area. Now, I see Warden Lichty has his hand up. He's familiar with a lot of the things too. I'd like to hear from him right now too.
Okay, so thank you. So we'll turn this over to the CAO first. for some comments, and your concerns have been noted. Do you have a comment? Warden Licky?
Okay, so let me add some clarification to where Councilor Fowler is coming from and so on. I don't necessarily share the same opinions as you. Each township looks after their own road system. It may not be the way. We did have a minor discussion about this about 2 years ago. Perhaps that should be brought back, but at this point in time, each township is responsible for their own infrastructure. We all have asset management plans now. We're putting away 2% a year. And that's roughly for us about 145, 150,000 a year. And we will be caught up in 10 years. Hopefully, by then it's probably going to be 15 years. But we're looking at that, and that's based on the current, like for us, a kilometer road gravel road is 30,000. It lasts 3 years. I was shocked at that. A tar and chip road lasts about 7 years, and it's in the 60 to 70,000 range, maybe even 80 now. But there are other things coming. As far as the KNP Trail, which is really this particular conversation, we own this asset as a county, and we have a choice of looking after it or not looking after it. I was invited along with the CAO to the grand reopening of Batay Valley, I think that's right, Havelock Trail from Perth running across to almost Charlotte Lake. And we spend massive dollars on the KNP. They've got a class act going there as well. And it's all part of this bigger system. And we passed resolutions before, saying that we would allocate up to $100,000 for a trailhead. And I believe I could be wrong, did this for Central Frontenac just a little while ago. But as far as I'm looking at this thing, it's $350,000. We got to spend the money anyway, so we allocated. But my concern along with it is it enough? Because I'm seeing $1 million and change for one bridge. Yes, there'll probably be grants for it or whatever. But if there isn't, is it going to be enough money? Do we have to add an annual allocation? That's really my only concern here.
Councilor Greenwood-Spears.
I support Warden Lichty's concern in that, and just looking at the figures between 2026 and 2028 or 2029 inclusive, it's $2 million. And that, so the 350,000 remains a drop in the bucket as to what's needed. And there's never been a long-term projection of not only the ongoing operating expenses, but the capital expenses. And we all hope that we can apply for every grant in the world and that to keep this affordable and that for the payback. But it is of concern in that this leftover gas tax, is that an accurate way, CAO, to describe it? It's been accumulated over the course of a few years. It's not just 6 years.
So the gas tax, or the former gas tax, it's been depleted, essentially. There's the matching dollars from that are going towards the ROD application. This 350 is separate. It's sitting in a strategic reserve account. It's council's prerogative of what to use that for.
But it didn't just come in this year. This has been accumulated over the course of several years, correct?
I'm looking at the acting treasurer and he's giving me the nod.
Okay, so how much are we looking at the old gas tax, the CFFB, and that coming in the future? Is there any more coming to the county?
So right now, everything that comes into the county through CCBF gets distributed back down to the townships to be used for roads, to Councillor Fowler's point, and whatever infrastructure needs there are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Councillor Vanderwall.
That was my point. The gas tax commitment is expired. We only made it for so many years. That's over with. You get your money back. Unless council as a whole decides that they want to commit gas tax money to it. Secondly, I do agree with Warden Lichty is I'm not opposed to the 350, but how do we keep funding that account? I know we're going to get some revenues from some things, but if it goes out a lot quicker than the 350, What replenishes 350?
Great question. I think what we're looking to do is establish something, a starting point here with this dedicated reserve for the KMP Trail. We do have our asset management plan that we're working through that will provide more information, not just on Fairmount Home paramedics, but specific to the KMP Trail and what that looks like going out into the future. This report includes some initial analysis on bridges and trailheads and things of that sort. We talked about in this motion to add any surplus from the operating budget as some kind of mechanism to help increase it, probably not enough. But at this point, we're just looking to establish the dedicated reserve, and we can bring back more information to council on how to replenish that reserve. I would also note that this is just to establish the reserve. We would have to come back to council to make use of that reserve. So that would come back on an individual basis.
I just want to add that 2 weeks ago, we took a tour all the way to Clarendon Station on the trail. And that was not a specific day for any bike riders that I know of. We met 60 probably, and we spent money in Charlotte Lake at the restaurant.
So with that tourism update,
There's no way to quantify what the trail makes. I'm just telling you what we met on just an average day.
I believe Warden Licky wants to make a comment.
Final comment on that one. I was in Chevrolet the other day and there was 5 ATVs sitting there in a row and they had headsets and whatever, and they were on the trail and they were going north as far as they could go, and then they were going to turn around and come back. And the Frontenac ATV Club has organized a series of rides that take them up to Wilbur. They actually should be about 1,000 feet short of Wilbur, but that's where they're going. And, you know, we need to do, Richard, a little bit of signage or something up there for future. But it's, people are coming. You look at the numbers, and the Frontenac ATV Club, we see the wardens, and I live on the north end of the trail. And I see the wardens, and they're doing a great job, and people that are on it are really respectful of the service the Frontenac ATV Club is providing.
So I believe we're a little off topic. Sorry, Councilor Fowler.
Just the area between the 509 to Wilbur, that's a real rough road from what I understand. There's a lot of flooding and a lot of potholes in that area. And it's going to cost a lot of money to repair that up to the standard that is south of the bridge at Snow Road.
Okay, I believe we're slightly off topic because the motion here is to approve this this fund. So I'm just going to call the vote. All those in favor? I'm sorry. All those in favor? Passed. Thank you. Information reports from the Chief Administrative Officer, report number 2025-078, Emergency Transportation Services Information Report on Ministry of Health MOH certification. Any comments, questions? Seeing none. I'm looking, Madam Clerk, we're good to move on? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, I know the concern is that some of the ambulances aren't inside a garage. Good news, over on Frontenac Island's Wolf Island, we have a garage that could store a ambulance. Wanted to make that offer there.
The deputy has made another note. Thank you. Oh, seeing no other comments, then we'll move on to the next item, which is reports from the Advisory Council of County Council. Item number 8, report of the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee report. And I'm going to ask the clerk to read the motion.
Moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Councillor Greenwood Spears, that the report received from the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee be received and adopted.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passed. Next item is item 2025-077, Frontenac County Official Plan Update. Oh. That's why you're sitting there. That has been passed, apparently. We are now going to return to council.
Moved by Counselor Vanderwall, seconded by Warden Lichty, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council. That was the report of the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee.
It's all in there. I apologize.
I feel better now having misunderstood that as well. So apologies. So Warden Lippy, the chair is yours. Sorry, call the question. All in favor of returning? Passed.
Return to council. Sorry. Okay, adoption of the report of the committee of the whole council.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Leonard, that the report of the committee of the whole council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Anyone wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none. Our communications, anyone want to talk about any one of these items that are in that list? Seeing none. Is there any other business? No. Bylaw, general bylaws and confirmatory bylaw.
So just a note to council, bylaw 033 was pulled from the agenda because it has not received zoning approval from Central Frontenac, so it's not receiving third reading today. So that has been removed. Moved by Deputy Warden Saunders, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws A and B that have been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaws A and B be read a first and second time.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Third reading.
Moved by Deputy Warden Saunders, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, resolved that bylaws A and B be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Councillor Vanderwall, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 11:51 a.m.
Final comments? In favor? Our meeting's adjourned. I just knew you were going to